Immigration is one of the most divisive topics that we have in the Netherlands right now, and I can understand why.
This is our country, this is our civilization, and we are willing to fight for our country. We are willing to fight for our people, and we want to keep Dutch women safe, want to keep Dutch children safe. That's much important for me.
In today's video, we're going to be looking at the immigration challenge or the immigration chat that we're having today in the Netherlands and how I perceive these things as an immigrant living here in the Netherlands. Hi everyone, my name is Josephine. I'm a YouTuber based in the Netherlands. I have lived in the Netherlands for over 6 years. I'm just literally trying to explore the Dutch culture, asking those difficult questions, try to understand it in the hope that one day I will become a part of it. Without further ado, let's get on with this video. The Netherlands is known as one of the most open-minded, welcoming and loving countries in Europe. However, in recent times, immigration has been one of the topics that have created this divide or barrier between Dutch people. One group believe that immigration is destroying the Netherlands, is eroding the Dutch culture, is putting pressure on the economy, and anyone who does not see this is literally a lunatic and should wake up. The other people see immigration as a positive. They've seen the growth and the contributions that immigrants have made to the Dutch economy, and they feel like anyone who doesn't see that benefit is either a racist, a fascist, or something is just wrong with you. In today's video, I will be exploring the topic of immigration in the Netherlands as an immigrant who is living here. I have lived in the Netherlands for over 6 years, and this is the first time I'm experiencing such a heated divide amongst Dutch people when it comes to this topic. I've heard people from the pro-immigration side, I've heard people that are against immigration, and I've also heard people that are somewhere in between. I would argue that a lot of Dutch people are actually somewhere in between. Now we'll be looking at each side of the argument. Those that are pro-immigration, what are their concerns? Why do they have that stance? What are the benefits that they see? And those that are against immigration, what is their argument? What is the challenge that they see? Why are they vehemently saying that we no longer want immigrants or some immigrants in the Netherlands? So without further ado, let's get on with this video. Before we even get on with this video, we're going to be talking about why immigration is such a hot topic. Now, unless you're living under a rock, I feel like immigration is a hot topic in literally every Western nation right now. Even in the US, people are talking about immigration. In the UK, okay? I literally think that in the UK, there is one protest or the other every single week, either from the pro-immigration side or the people against immigration. Someone is protesting every day in the UK, as far as I'm concerned. But I think when it comes to the Netherlands, it's a little bit unique or is a little bit different. And I'm going to tell you why. The Netherlands just hit a population growth of over 18 million. And this growth is not coming as a result of birth or natural progression. This is solely as a result of immigration. According to the CBS, over 1 million immigrants have moved to the Netherlands in the past 10 years. Even though that there has been benefit, which we are going to explore in this video, there has also been challenges, because over the years, there has been challenges with housing market crisis. Some people argue that there has also been an increase in crime rate and inflation. Bear in mind, people, that what I'm actually trying to do in this video is to try to be the middle ground. I want to share with you what I've heard from the pro-immigration side, what I've heard from the people that are against immigration, and try to understand where they're both coming from. Because I think at this point, we are at the level where people are just calling each other names. If a Dutch person who is against immigration is either a racist, a fascist, all the names in the world, and I hate that. I don't like that. At the same time, when you see someone maybe in the other aisle that is pro-immigration, you see people calling them lunatics, they are delusional, they are corrupt, all those things. And yeah, it just doesn't sit right with me, because I feel like in either side of the argument, they do have really good points that when you consider, you can now by yourself come up with your own decision as to how do you think the Netherlands or the government or the new government that we're going to be having in a couple of days, how do you think they should handle this issue, which has been a major issue, at least in the past years. Now, we're going to start with the pro-immigration side. One of the major things that I've heard from Dutch people who are pro-immigration is that immigrants have significantly contributed to the Dutch economy. And when I hear this, the question I ask is, how? Okay? Remember, we're going to go back to the numbers. Now, these people argue that the Dutch population alone is not enough to run the current Dutch economy that we have. And they may have a point, because without immigration, the Dutch population is on a decline. The death rate in the Netherlands is consistently more than the birth rate in the Netherlands. The Netherlands has a high number of aging population as well. So these people argue that we do need these immigrants to work, contribute to the economy in order to have the economy running. In the first half of 2024, the UWV reported 18,800 applications from Dutch companies to bring in non-EU workers. This nearly matched a total of 20,800 that was received in 2023. When you look at non-EU migrants, 46% of non-EU migrants are actually knowledge migrants, which are highly skilled migrants coming into the Netherlands to work. They pay tax, they contribute to the economy. So these people, when they look at these numbers, they're arguing that if we are needing to bring in over 18,800 people just in the first quarter of 2024 into the Netherlands, then that means that we do have a challenge that cannot be ignored. We don't have enough people to work for us, especially in some specialized niche. Now, there are some sectors such as tech, information, and communication require highly educated workers. In 2020, for instance, 56,000 construction workers were employed from outside of the Netherlands. According to this NL Times report, if the government were to limit labor migration significantly, 24% of companies say that they would shift growth abroad. 23% will have to scale down production in the Netherlands. So we do have a problem. Now, Dutch multinationals and high-tech companies, for instance, ASML, have laid it out clearly that if the government limits their ability to employ non-EU workers or knowledge migrants, they may have to move their operations elsewhere. And this is not just because they want to threaten the government, it's because they genuinely need people. And that's one of the reasons why we have those knowledge migrants. They need people. The side of the argument, they're stating that the Netherlands, our population are not growing. We are growing in GDP. We need people to work. Employment rate is very low. We cannot do all the jobs by ourselves. We need people. Now, when they say things like this, a lot of people respond that yes, they don't have a problem with controlled knowledge migration. Where they have the issue most times is the asylum seekers, who are typically coming from war-torn countries or poorer countries and are coming into the Netherlands without the skills that the Netherlands need. And these typically would require more support from the government or the Dutch economy to support them. Now, the argument that these other people make is that you cannot pick and choose pretty much the benefit that you have. It's like when you take, you sort of give. If you're benefiting from the skilled migrants, it's only fair that you're also able to give to those migrants who come in here and they are struggling. So that's the argument that I hear from this side, and they've got a point. Now, another argument that I hear from this side is that their immigrants are not living in palaces and their lives are not as wonderful as some people assume it to be. Now, take for instance, they say when people come in here to seek asylum, a lot of times they have left their homes, everything that they know, and they are here trying to build their lives. They literally will have to depend on the government for every single thing. Some of them were working professionals at home, so that their lives are not necessarily as wonderful, and glorious as some people portray it to be. These people are struggling, and these people are really not the problem. That is the argument from the other side.
The US, people are being deported, and in the Netherlands, in my country, you see this as well. Like the ruling party, the PVV, wants to implement the harshest border policy ever, and you already see that being executed right now. So that means a surge in deportations, and I think it's really important that we collectively fight against that and unite and stand as one against the racism in our country and globally.
Now, another thing that I noticed from the pro-immigration side is that some of them tend to take it too far, just like every single person, that whoever is not pro-immigration or whoever who is out there, demonstrating that they no longer want immigrants, they no longer want asylum seekers in their homes, those people are typically racist, they are fascist. And sometimes, you guys need to stop throwing all these buzzwords, because that makes me wonder sometimes, do you really know what you're saying, right? Just because someone has a different opinion as you and is willing to openly express it doesn't make the person racist, fascist, feminist. I don't know. These days, whenever I hear a buzzword, I'm like, I'm out, okay? Because you cannot bully someone or buzzword someone into agreeing with you. Everything sometimes requires some conversation and a way forward. Now, these are the arguments and many more things that I've heard from this side. However, from the people against immigration, I have heard some very, very serious arguments from their side, and I'm going to share with you the things that I've heard. The first thing that they quote is still the Dutch population data. Now, these people argue the Netherlands just hit over 18 million people in 2024, and there has been a significant increase in Dutch population, not by reproduction but by migration. Now, these people argue that you cannot continue to bring in people into the country without control, without caution, without considering if the resources you have in the country is enough. Now, they've backed up their argument with so many things. Number one, housing crisis. The Netherlands is a densely populated country, the fifth most densely populated country in Europe. They have a population of about 18 million people and a land area of about 42,000 square kilometers, which is roughly about 16,200 square miles. Now, the argument that these people have is that naturally the country is already densely populated, so an excessive migration without any provision of housing for these people is going to put pressure on an already pressured housing shortage, and then continuing without even finding a solution to the housing shortage that we already have in the country is a major issue. Now, they have blamed asylum seekers. They argue that municipalities have to prioritize these asylum seekers when it comes to housing. Housing market in the Netherlands is insane. Just in case you don't know, they keep rising and rising. Sometimes when I type housing market rise in housing market, it is just insane. I think in this year alone, the housing market has risen over 10%. So it has made it extremely difficult for those lower income earners who also depend on social housing. Sometimes they have to wait 10, 15 years to be able to get a spot. And for them to see asylum seekers or immigrants in general prioritized when it comes to social housing, that is a problem.
The Netherlands is going a bit down to a lot of immigration, and I don't want that, because a lot of immigrations are coming here to destroy the Netherlands, and I don't want that, because people here in the Netherlands also want a building for their own, like a house. And it's pretty hard to get that on here in this time, because so many people want a house, and there's a house problem here in the Netherlands. And a lot of people have much money because they spare loan a lot by the bank, and I can't do that, so yeah.
Now, another thing that I've heard from the other side who are against immigration is that crime rate has significantly increased. Now, according to them, more immigrants commit crime in the Netherlands, and that is a problem if you consistently bring in people from those parts of the world into the country. Now, when I heard about this argument, I rolled my eyes. I was like, are you serious? So I decided to do a little bit of digging to see if they have a point in what they're saying. Now, a report that I saw on NOS, actually this report was titled "People with Migration Background Face Disadvantages in the Criminal Justice System." Now, this report stated that 46% of minor suspects have a migration background, and in cases that subsequently go to court, that figure is 56%. When juvenile detention is imposed, the share of those convicted with migration background has risen to 67%. Now, among adults, proportion of suspects with migration background increased from 45% when registered by the police to 55% when sentenced to a prison term. Now, when you see these numbers, the people against immigration, they take these numbers literally and say, why is it that 67% of minors who are sentenced in the Netherlands are from an immigrant background? And bear in mind, 72% of the population in the Netherlands are from Dutch backgrounds. They see this significant disparity. How is it that a 30% population is committing 67% of the crime? Now, this is when you take these numbers without looking at the nuances. People on the opposition argue that it's not just a significance that these people commit more crimes. However, there's a problem showing the injustice in the system. Not necessarily that these people are committing crimes at a disproportionate rate. It is actually because there is injustice in the system, either because these people do not understand properly the justice system, so they don't know how to play the law. Let me put it that way. So what their argument is that people who are native Dutch, they understand the justice system, they know how to play the law. So even when they're in trouble, they know what to do, how to play the law. But people with immigrant background do not have that benefit. So it will always feel as though they are disproportionately committing crime, when it may not be this case. It may actually be a case of discrimination within the justice system. So you see the argument, right? You see that this argument can quickly go from against immigration, I don't want immigrants, to okay, maybe the immigrants are being discriminated upon. Yeah, you make the choice. I'm gonna try to link all these reports in the description box, so if you're willing to just go wild and explore, help yourself and do that. These other people against immigration also state that there is pressure on public services. It's not just the housing, there's pressure on public services. You have pressure on public schools, public transport, hospitals. Just argue that it's a densely populated country. They don't have the capacity to manage that type of intense pressure, especially over a short period of time. Another thing that the people against migration bring up is the integration challenges. Now, these people claim that immigrants, whether you're talking about the knowledge migrants who are coming in to do the high-skilled jobs, or the ones who are coming in through asylum, refuse to assimilate, to learn the Dutch culture or integrate into their society. Now, the other people who are pro-immigration, they challenge their claim, stating that most of these immigrants find it extremely difficult to integrate because a lot of times they don't have the tools to integrate within a short period of time. So for the knowledge migrants, for instance, they work in multinational institutions, making it completely difficult for them to integrate. Again, Dutch people speak a disproportionate amount of English. Dutch people are one of the most English-speaking, non-English-speaking countries in the world. Over 95% of Dutch people speak English, so it makes it difficult for some of these knowledge migrants to even learn the language because they are not given the opportunity to. It's also very, very expensive to learn the language. Now, they also argue for those from low-income earners that it just takes time. These things takes time. That a lot of times they eventually integrate. It just takes time. Now, the pro-immigration side cite cultural enrichment and diversity as a positive thing. They say multicultural cities like Rotterdam and Amsterdam are cultural powerhouse. You get your food, music, festival, fashion. You have a lot of people from different facets of life, and it just contributes in the Netherlands' global identity as a diverse open and tolerant country. However, the people against immigration claim that a major challenge that they have is that most of the immigration that they are receiving in the Netherlands are immigrations from countries with very different cultures and norms, especially from Muslim majority nations like Turkey, Morocco, and parts of Africa, Syria, and the Middle East. Now, the challenge that they're having is that these people have very, very different way of life. Culturally, religion is very, very different, and they fear that no matter what, these are two cultures that can never assimilate. And this doesn't help because it just creates more divisive society or parallel societies that do not have anything in common. They just don't like each other, and they claim that you have seen this in the recent years. You've seen more divide because most of these immigrants from Muslim countries or from countries with very, very different cultural values and norms as the Netherlands, when they come here, they just go to the areas where they have people like them. They don't assimilate, they don't integrate, they don't change, nothing. Instead of that diversity becoming a powerful tool, that diversity is never utilized and is being weaponized because it becomes a divisive thing. So they do not want that number, the preposterous number of immigrants or migration that is happening in the Netherlands is something they no longer want. Now, another thing that I've actually kind of thought about, I don't think any of the people against immigration come out openly to say this, but another thing that I feel or I can hear from some of the things that they say is that inner fear or that inner concern of being outbred. Hear me out.
I'm here to protest immigration. I think that's a very large issue that we've been having in the Netherlands for a couple of decades now. And what we've seen now is that with this level of immigration, with this net immigration, you see that in the larger Dutch cities, Dutch people are becoming a minority. And I believe in the right for people to have their own state. And of course, we could have some asylum seekers, but it's just way too much.
We're going to look at the numbers. In 2024 alone, 28% of the Dutch population had a migration background. Either they were born to one or two parents that were born abroad. Now, about 15% had a non-Western background, and this year is slowly increasing. Regardless, the native-born Dutch people make up 72% of the Dutch population, but that percentage, they fear, is slowly reducing, and it could get to a point where they will not be able to be in a majority. They just feel like if the people that are coming in are not Dutch, they don't share similar values or religion with the Dutch people, they do not care to integrate or assimilate to the Dutch culture, they fear that there is a risk that when the Dutch people become the minority in the land, they will be outnumbered. What makes you think that when these immigrants become the majority in the Netherlands will be what it is today? They just fear that they're losing every day their culture and they're losing pieces of the Netherlands as the immigrants increase. Now, the fear is that the high immigrant rate will eventually make the Dutch people a minority, that the birth rates amongst these immigrant people are much higher than those of native Dutch. Now, some of these critics fear that when such immigrants become fully majority, they may never embrace the Dutch way of life, which include gender equality, LGBTQ rights, secularism, and free speech. Now, some of them even argue that when these groups go larger, they're going to reshape the social norms, they're going to reshape the schools and even laws over time. The question is there any truth in their fear? Do they have valid points? CBS forecasts that Dutch population could get to 20.6 million by 2050, mostly due to net migration. Now, even though there is some truth in it, projections do not see in the coming decades the native European Dutch people ever becoming minority in the Netherlands per the projection. Also, the birth rates for immigrants are also reducing because when the immigrants come to the Netherlands, they also kind of embrace some Western values. So some of those things will still converge. It's not going to be as separated as many people fear. These are basically the arguments that I've seen when it comes to pro and against migration in the Netherlands. And these two stances do have a point. Now I'm going to say this. As an immigrant myself who is living in the Netherlands, I will always have a heart for migration. The reason is because I moved to the Netherlands 6 years ago. I was literally just married, and in this beautiful country, I've been able to have 2 kids. I am living here with my husband. The Netherlands has literally changed my life. I did a video, I think 2 years ago, where I shared how the Netherlands literally changed my life for the better, and some of the challenges that I'm facing also as an immigrant living here. I'm going to share that video somewhere in the card so you can go check it out. So my point being is that as an immigrant, I'll always have that heart, right? Because I am an immigrant. I always have the heart towards my fellow immigrants or the immigration law, just because I myself have benefited from this law, and this country has been an absolute blessing to me. However, I'm going to say this. I think that the Dutch people who are anti-immigration also do have a point. There is no place where you can consistently, on a regular basis, have the high rate of immigration and expect not to have impact on the people already existing there. And even though I have enjoyed some immigration benefits, that benefit that I enjoyed may have been at the cost of someone else or at the cost of another Dutch person. That's the way that I see it. So just because I love immigration or I see the benefits that immigration has, not just to me, but I also enjoy the Netherlands, contribute to the Netherlands. There is benefit and there are negative aspects of immigration. And if it's not controlled in a way that you reap the benefits of immigration, you're gonna reap the other side. So the way I see it is that you cannot continue to let people into a sinking ship. If a ship is sinking, everyone is going down, and you cannot keep letting people in if the ship is sinking. At the same time, I do not buy the idea that immigrants are the only ones to blame for the country's problem. I think that both sides have either downplayed or exaggerated the benefits and cons of having migration. I think that you cannot consistently continue to blame immigrants for every issue that the Dutch people have. If there is a housing challenge in the Netherlands, there is a housing challenge in the Netherlands. Yes, immigration could make it even worse, but it doesn't completely eradicate the problem. And I also think that you cannot say, oh, immigration is not affecting housing crisis in the Netherlands. I think that would be you being disingenuous. So I don't know if you get my point. I'm just somewhere in the middle where I see that there are benefits to immigration, but I can also see the other side of immigration. I can also see the challenges that can come from it. And I feel like there has to be a way where the government finds that solution where they can balance the number of people that are being let into the Netherlands to the benefits that they can get from that in a way that does not negatively consistently impact the people in a negative way. I think that the concerns of people on both sides should always be taken into consideration, because at the end of the day, the Dutch locals living in the Netherlands are the ones whose life are significantly impacted by migration. They're the ones who have to adjust if immigration goes up or immigration comes down. So at the end of the day, they are the ones that will have to make the decision. Now, the question that I also have in my mind is, you remember the analogy I made earlier on, that you cannot continue allowing people into a sinking ship. The question is the Netherlands as a country sinking? Is migration causing the Dutch values and the culture to keep going down? Is migration really sinking the Netherlands as a country? Or are the people that are against immigration just crying wolf? Are they just exaggerating? Should we just completely ignore their concerns? That's for you to decide. And an easy way that I think you can think about it is, the Netherlands that you see today, are you satisfied with it? The trajectory of things here in the Netherlands, are you satisfied or are you okay with it? And if the answer is no, what is it that can be done to improve it? Or what is it that you really want to change? Is up to you. All right, everyone, this is me trying to explore the idea of immigration, and I didn't think that this topic was a very difficult one, to be honest, until I started researching and I actually started looking at things from the two perspectives. Let me know in the comment section what you think. I'm always excited to hear from you when it comes to topics like this that are very difficult to discuss or to find a solution. If you're Dutchy, let me know in the comment section. Are you pro-immigration? Are you against immigration? Or are you somewhere in the middle where you think the government should find a way where they can control immigration and bring in immigrants who are willing to assimilate and contribute to the society? Let me know what you think. Alright, this is the end of this video. Please don't forget to give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing to my channel. I'm a YouTuber based in the Netherlands and I'm always happy to share these opinions with you. Thank you once again and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!